spend with you. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy.
I saw a quote here and I was chuckling to myself. I wish I would have made an overhead of it because it would have made Ralph smile and some of you chuckle outright. The tallest blade of grass is the first to get cut by the lawnmower. I thought, whoa, that's profound. Because what we're going to be talking about today is success. And so you want to be the tallest and strongest one. But the tallest blade of grass is the first to get cut by the lawnmower. You got to love it. And Ricardo, you can use that as you start one of your motivational speeches. But be that as it may, what constitutes success? Some people dream of success while other people live simply to crush those dreams. There's another quote that I ran upon talking about success. But I want you to turn back to the book of Joshua and into the first chapter. You see there in verse 7, only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all the law which Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left so that you may have success wherever you go. Now, see, I was the tallest blade of grass in this one because me is not mine. I don't know who was proofreading this, but they didn't catch that. My success, my servant. You will have success wherever you go. So it gives us a little bit of a criterion. This book of law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, then you will have success. Now, it's a simple plan, but it is a biblical plan, and sometimes mankind does not want biblical plans whatsoever. Mankind looks for little trite sayings. Serve as a motivator. Some years ago, there was a man with cerebral palsy, and he had gotten in contact with me. And he said, will you teach me how to do speaking? Will you teach me how to give presentations? How to be a motivational speaker? And I thought, okay, I can do that. I can tell somebody how to get up and try to motivate others and see who's motivated there. But I could do that. And so I did. I spent the time talking to him and trying to get him to be motivated. And here, if you'll follow this plan, you'll have success. And you know what I did? I took exactly this. The 7-part plan that's found in the book of Joshua. And I laid it out for him. And you know what? Whether he knew it or not, he was following this prescription. And that man is still serving as a motivational speaker today. And he's doing, I guess, quite well for himself. And he's inspiring others. So notice what you look at there. In Joshua, the first chapter, verses 7, 8, and 9. Here's the 7-part plan. Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be dismayed at all. And be motivated. Be motivated. Be courageous. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Oh boy. I have not been motivated at all this week. How did that happen? You know what? I'm going to blame it on Britain. I don't know. Forget that chart, okay? We're going to go dark. Here's what Joshua said. Be strong. Be very courageous. Observe and do according to what is written. Don't turn right or to the left. Meditate on it. Think on it. Not just in certain times, but day and night. Don't be afraid. Don't be dismayed. Now, dismayed means don't quit. Don't quit. Keep going ever forward. Don't quit. So when you begin to think about success, and you think about it from the standpoint of life, you can have a success in life. You can be mindful of that, and you can easily attain it. Go back into the book of Jeremiah, and we're going to go into the 9th chapter, verse 23. Let's see if this one is, sure, we'll go there. Hopefully there's no mistakes there. Okay, looks good so far. Look at verse 23. Let not a wise man boast of his wisdom, and let not the mighty man boast of his might. Let not a rich man boast of his riches, but let him who boasts boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who exercises loving kindness, justice, righteousness on earth. For I delight in these things, declares the Lord. So what's God saying? What you want to hang your hat on is you want to be an understanding person. You want to be a person that exercises true kindness, genuine love, caring and concerning, just like we talked about in Titus this morning. Word success basically boils down to, in Hebrew, means to act wisely. Back in the book of Genesis, the 24th chapter, verse 12. You see, Abraham's servant prayed for success, to act wisely. That's what he wanted. So the world views success, as you can see on the overhead. This one's laid out properly. Wealth, power, material possessions, fame, education. Ralph and I were talking about in between, talking about how people elevate certain ones just because of, well, letters behind their name. For whatever reason, or how much they have in their bank account, what kind of car they drive. I feel kind of pretentious because I drive a Kia, a new Kia, a blue Kia. And yesterday when we pulled into the lot at the restaurant, I saw another blue car, just like our car. And I pulled next to it and I noticed, oh, it's a Cadillac. Why do I notice those things? It doesn't make any difference to me what kind of car I drive. It doesn't. Or what kind of car someone else does. But is that a measure of success? No. Elijah's saying no, emphatically. It's not a measure of success. Ralph rang the bell today. I told him that's a sign of power. Is power success? No. We are aware of the fact that power does not constitute success. We all have material possessions, and we could have storage sheds full of them. Does that constitute success? No. Notoriety? No. So what is success? Well, we just read there out of Jeremiah. But I want us to look a little bit deeper. Go back and look in Philippians, the third chapter, and notice the example of Paul. And when did Paul view himself as a success? And that is, to me, it's fascinating. Paul was a Pharisee of Pharisees by his own admission. Pharisee was someone of great notoriety back then. He had position, he had power, he had fame. Could snap his fingers. He could get authority to go and imprison people. And he did it. But did he consider himself a success then? And the answer is no. If you look at Galatians, and I know I told you to go to Philippians, you stay in Philippians. I'm going to go over to Galatians and I'll read for you. And in Galatians, I'm going to go into the very first chapter. And you can see it on the overhead. I'm going to begin reading in verse 13. For you have heard of my former manner of life in Judaism, how I used to persecute the church of God beyond measure, tried to destroy it, and I was advancing in Judaism beyond many of my contemporaries among my countrymen, being more extremely zealous for my ancestral traditions. Man, I was a man among men. I was it. The phylacteries were elongated. People would look at me in awe. I sat at the feet of Gamaliel. I studied under him. People gasped when I walked by. Oh my, it's Saul of Tarsus. But what he goes on to show, he didn't see himself as a success then. He had his eyes open when he was made blind. Elijah was just telling me in between class. He was reading in Acts, the 9th chapter, about when Saul, the New Testament Saul, not the Old Testament Saul, was converted, became Paul of the New Testament. So I appreciated listening to all that Elijah had to say then. Because it was then that Paul found success. It was when he went backward that he found success. So look at Philippians, where you guys are. Give me half a second to get over there. You're in the 3rd chapter. Look at verse 7. But whatever things were gained to me, those things I have counted as loss for the sake of Christ. I got rid of it. I chucked it. I blew it off like a bad smell on a not so windy day. It's gone. More than that, verse 8, I count all things to be loss in view of the surpassing value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things. Count them but rubbish in order that I may gain Christ. In the 8th chapter of Romans, he talks about, but in all these things we overwhelmingly conquer through him who loved us. The ultimate victory. So only when I go back do I find success, is what Paul is clearly saying. And that's what we need to understand. Because he's talking about spirituality. He's talking about those things that transcend the physical. The motivation that we need to have is one of a spiritual nature. And that we need to be motivated to do those things that God has put in place. And success, and again, remember how we're defining success, of acting wisely, Success will come, but you got to pay the price. And I'm sure that's something that every motivational speaker will say. Ricardo, at some point when he's doing his speeches, trying to motivate the Rams or whoever, you haven't done a good job so far. We'll talk. Anyways, you got to be willing to pay the price. You got to pay the price. And I can remember the coaches that I had, motivational speakers that I listened to. That was the first thing that came out of their mouth. Are you willing to pay the price? Austin, you remember Austin would talk about his coach in a box. And Austin listened to a lot of motivational speakers, motivational instructors. And each and every one talked about a desire to pay the price. The exacting cost. Christ does too. In the 14th chapter of the book of Luke, he talks about the cost of discipleship. I saw somewhere that genius is 1% inventiveness and 99% perspiration. The same can be said with regards to success. It demands a concentrated effort. You're never going to get there if you're not willing to put in the time, the energy, and a commitment to follow the pattern and plan set before you. So you got to, we talked about in Joshua, about that 7-part arrangement. But you've got to have an identity of a goal. What is it that you want? What is it that you're longing for? What is it you desire? And that's what you got to do. Have you identified the goal you want? I don't care if you're 15 or 85. You have to have a goal you want. You have to identify it. This is what I want. I told Randy that I bought 2 guitars. Oh, they're not expensive. Oh, no, they're not expensive. Cheap. And one of them is an acoustic bass. The other is a 6-string. And then I do have a 6-string electric that Adam bought me. And I've been told by my family, you never play it, you never play it, you never play it. Well, I bought a small amplifier. I play the 6-string that Adam bought me. I don't play it often. But Randy wants to get together and play. And so what it tells me is I have to get motivated. I was motivated. It took me a long time to buy those things, but I bought them. And now, am I motivated? Am I motivated to do the exercises? Am I motivated to try and get my ear back in tune? Am I motivated? So I've got to identify the goal. That's a physical thing. And it is something I do as fun, part of the toy department of life. But you look spiritually. And I've got to identify the goal. I want to be a better Christian. I want to make it to heaven. I want to go from this point in time into an eternity with God. It's what I want to do. So everything in my life needs to support that goal, that desire. And now I list the benefits. What am I going to get out of it? Well, I get a better life here. A life that I can live, that affords me peace and so on. And then how do you list the benefits that are to come? They're beyond comprehension. Are there going to be obstacles? Yes. Obstacles aplenty. Because I have to deal with you all. Again, tongue in cheek. But there are obstacles that have to be overcome. Obstacles that I set up for myself. Obstacles like I can't do it. No, 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 no. That's not me. I've got to overcome that type of thinking. And I've got to dig within myself to overcome whatever may be set before me. I've got to grow and increase in the grace and knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Hebrews the 6th chapter, verse 1. 2 Peter 3:18. I've got to do that. I know what I need to know. I need to apply myself. I know who I need to work with in order to do it, and that's you. Members of the body of Christ. So how do I develop a plan of action? I've got to figure one out. So these are the things that I want to attain. Goal setting, success-minded. And you're sitting there going, oh, no, I don't need to do any of this. This is an exercise in futility. No. God put it in for a reason. It was stated to Joshua for a purpose. And you go, well, that purpose was so that they would go in and possess the physical land. Yeah. But now remember, what was written under the Old Testament times was written for our instruction. So I take that which is physical and I make the application to that which is spiritual and realize that we've taken possession of that which is a spiritual kingdom. And I need to find success. I need to find victory. I need to realize and make certain about his calling and choosing me. I need to do these things. I need to set these goals. And I need to reach them. Because I've got to figure out what's really important right now. Zig Ziglar, I went to a motivational series that he was having. And I enjoyed going. I didn't buy it. A friend of mine bought it for one of his employees, and he wanted me to make sure that his employee went through the training. So I said, okay, I'll go. So Zig Ziglar was there and many other motivational speakers. Former President Ford was there, and on it goes. But one thing I took away was win. Win. At all cost, win. And it's an acronym. What's important now? Whatever you're doing in life, you have a mindset of winning, of doing what's important right now. So right now, at this moment, at 11:52 on, what is this, January 12th, 2025. What I've got to do at this moment is to be the best possible communicator of God's word that I possibly can be. That's what I've got to do. That's what's important right now. And you, on your part, have to decode the message that's being set forth. You've got to be the best listener right now. You've got to be in tune, listening, paying attention in order to extract what is good. So you carry that over into every situation. And you realize whatever's past is past. And you focus on the future. So Paul talks about 1 Corinthians 6, verses 9, 10, and 11. You focus on the future. And you can't unring the bell. So you leave the bell behind and you move forward. You focus on the future. Now, yes, I was redundant on this chart because it's important. Redundancy is important. When you're talking to people and you're trying to communicate something to them, you assume they're not going to hear you the first time. You're going to figure out a way to tell them the second time because you want them to be a success. And over the years, I've told you little snippets, and I've told you why I do certain things, why I give your minds a break every 8 to 12 minutes, why I do this, why I do that. So on this one, I did it purposely to stir you up by way of reminder, as Peter said, because you need to be doing what's important now. So when you're teaching a class, it's what's important right now. When you're engaging with one another, pay attention to that person. Hear what that person has to say. What's important now. If you change your mind, your life's going to follow. And that's what we're talking about. Change your mind. The renewing of the mind. In Romans, the 12th chapter, verses 1 and 2. Now I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Christ, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove. Well, the same basic principle is stated in Ephesians 4, verse 20 and follow. I realize it's hard to change. I realize that. And I could make some kind of joke and, just kind of smarmy statement. But I want you to understand how important it is that you change. And I can't make light of it. You've got to change. It's worth the effort. And yeah, you failed in the past. You honestly failed. But you don't have to fail at this point going forward. And if you failed in the past, who cares? People are all trying diets right now, unless you can get on Ozempic. Then you can eat what you want and you stab yourself and you're good to go. I wish that they had Ozempic like that. Medicine I take puts pounds on you. All my doctors said that. I said, well, great. I don't care about the past. I am what I am. I feel like Popeye. I am what I am. What can I do about it? Well, we know that exercise isn't going to help. All right, I like that. We know that you don't eat very much, and I don't. Ask Linda. I'm close to a pescatarian diet, not Presbyterian. Pescatarian. Big difference. So I accept where I am. But I realize I can do better. I try to do better. It takes a change of mind. And my mind's hard to change. So's yours. Because we're the largest enemy dealing with change. We are our own worst enemy. Because we have to change the mind. And if we'll change the mind, everything else is going to fall into place. Now, I got a lot more to say, but you know what? I'm going to save it for another time. I will leave you with something out of Galatians, the 2nd chapter, and verse 20. Paul writes there after he talks about all the things that he had changed in his life. He writes, I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer now I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and delivered himself up for me. The change of attitude, the change of mind. When that happened, everything else fell into place. Am I there yet? No. Kind of like a little kid in a car going on a long trip. We there yet? We there yet? Nope. I'm not there yet. I still have success in view. I still want more. My goals are still there. And I know in order to reach them, sometime I'm going to have to go outside my comfort zone. Linda will tell you all the things I really have to work hard to do. I really do. I'm not a very personable guy. I'm not. It's hard for me to go and visit people. But I realize I've got to do more of it. I've got to go and knock on your door. Hey, open up in there. You guys are going to look out and go, no, 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 not him again. But I've got to do that. I've got to do it. And you got to be the recipients. But we all have to step outside our comfort zone. We have to change our mind. And everything else will fall into place. So hopefully this whetted your appetite just a tiny bit to think about what you can do to reach what you want, the attainability of spirituality, and the blessedness that comes as a result. If there's anyone here that might need the prayers of the congregation for encouragement or strength, we'll be glad to help you with that. Or if, like last Sunday afternoon, we had a young woman who wanted to be baptized. What a joyous occasion that was. And I asked her brother if he would do it. You should have seen the smile on his face. It was a joyous time. Maybe you need to be baptized for the remission of sins. Everything's ready. The question is, are you? If you're subject to the invitation in any way, we would invite you to come while we stand and sing number